Working on a video for tomorrow, so please forgive me if the video doesn't come up tomorrow. I got by a goat, and it looks not as bad as it actually is, because his horn went in this finger, went up to past the knuckle. I don't know how to show you, but up to here. So there's an entrance wound, but no exit wound. And so that whole area that John is touching, I've got like air bubbles in there because it separated all the skin from the flesh and it went to the bone. So you can't see it, but we're concerned that we've got like contamination up in there because the horn went under the skin and then came back out. So there's closed, moist area up in there instead of there being a flap. So the horn went almost up to this first knuckle underneath. So if I can't type tonight, once we're finished with this, we're not sure. I've got it in Epsom salts. We'll try and show you. I don't know what you can see. Got it in Epsom salts. Epsom salts with some hot water and some essential oils, and we're trying to figure out if we can handle this naturally, but we're also kind of going into the doctor just because buck goat underneath all your skin is just about the nastiest thing in the world.
And when it's very close to winter.
Yeah,
it's not good.
It's not good when it's close to winter because they're stinky and they pee on their own heads. So
do you want to?
What am I saying?
Go ahead and broadcast, and we'll talk a little bit while we.
And so we're trying to go into Grandma's. Well, I kind of need to keep my hand in it, so I'm not sure. What was I going to say? Oh, so what happened is that he wasn't trying to hit me. He was trying to hit the doe that I was bringing to him. They have some personality clashes where she's the head of the herd and he knows it, and so he feels aggressive towards her. And last time we bred them, he did the same thing where he was trying to get her, and yet I was out of the way enough and I held her out of the way for the breeding so she wasn't getting hurt. We did not leave them in free together. He didn't act like this with the other doe. It is a personality thing with these two, and he's never done anything like this just with people. And so I just happened to get in the way when he was trying to get her. Yeah. So we are trying to figure out if he might be sterile, which would be really sad because he has good genetics, because he didn't take the first time and yet everything looked like it went well. So we're going to go in and get that checked out. We've had goats with horns before and never had an injury. So if he turns out to be sterile, or if it turns out that he injures another person, he's going to be dog food, which unfortunately a lot of people will probably be offended by that. But with a goat that's vicious towards other goats or towards people, you don't want to have them around unless you can have them like in a really tall pen where people don't go and hand breed them. It gets really complicated. So this is my first ever goat injury, ever. I've never been injured by a goat.
And normally we would send him to freezer camp rather than dog food.
But we don't have a freezer.
And he stinks, and we don't want to eat taint meat.
Yeah, kind of gross. So this is unfortunately my video for tomorrow. I'm sorry. I did have the video done, and I talked all day about living in the tiny house, and I was just finishing the video up when I went out for one last breeding and got in the way. So, again, I would be less concerned if it was not a puncture. If it was like a flap of skin, we would just put stitches in, it would be fine. But because the horn went under and separated the layers of skin and went up into my finger, I'm concerned about there being contamination up underneath the skin, because I have air bubbles. Every time we squeeze around the wound, I have air bubbles coming out, and so that kind of worries us. So let's see. Wholesome Root said no peroxide, it kills healthy cells. I haven't used peroxide yet, and I was a little concerned about putting anything under the skin because it is a puncture. I was concerned about what to put in. Not normal tree. That's terrible. Put goat semen on your hand, then if they culture your wound for infection, they can tell if he's sterile.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, that was fun.
That was awesome.
That was weird.
Yeah. We have dehorned him several times, closure. He was dehorned as a buckling. Before he had horns, we dehorned him, and then the renters tried to dehorn him again. He ended up with scurs. They tried to they took him to the vet and had him dehorned, and they grew back.
He's got very persistent horns.
Yeah, very persistent. So Wholesome Root said plantain to draw it out. I think I have some of that. What's JD? Have more farm. Brian Philbrook said you'd be crying. It actually isn't that painful. It really hurt when he did it. I didn't realize how bad it was when he did it. I thought he had just like scraped some skin off. It wasn't until I looked at it later that I realized that he'd actually separated the skin from what was underneath. Epsom salts, black salve, soak it, then let it dry out. Betadine. But okay, so Christy Betts, betadine. What about a puncture though? I've cleaned it out really good and I've irrigated it as best I can just with the Epsom salts and the little bit of
Tea tree oil?
frankincense oil that I have in the water. Sorry, I can't read very well. I don't actually think that it needs stitches. It's just, I mean, if I opened it up, you could see like the inside of my hand if I opened it for you. But I think it would heal fine on its own. It's just that his horn went underneath too. Does that make sense?
They have bacteria in the water.
I'm worried there's bacteria or hair or nasty goat pee in there. Chew up plantain leaves and apply directly to the wound. Okay. Keep It Dutch said, sell him on Craigslist as a gentle family goat, LOL.
He's not a gentle goat.
Oh, the neighbors love him.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a scourge that got me. It wasn't a regular horn. It was a scourge that was quite a bit slimmer. Not normal tree said, try to keep wound open so if there is infection will drain. Yeah, and that's why I've got it in the water. So I'm trying to get water up and into those spaces, and then I'm trying to push the bubbles out. Prepper nurse said, so sorry to see you wounded. Warm saline soak. 1 cup very warm water with 1 teaspoon salt. Soak for 5 minutes 3 times a day will help.
Hey.
Mother of many horses said, just joining. Are you up to date on tetanus? I cannot get shots. I got shots when I was a kid, and they made me super, super deadly sick with high fevers and stuff like that. So I'm afraid to go get a tetanus shot.
Back to prepper nurse. What is their thoughts on antibiotics?
She thinks I should soak it with Epsom salts.
Okay.
Let's see. Nancy Stonebrocker said, when I had a nail gun puncture in my finger, the hospital cleaned it, covered it, and let it heal on its own. Really? Keeping It Dutch said, tell John to be back in Oklahoma for rifle season.
Right?
Right?
Or archery. I'll take either one.
Yeah, does anybody remember when Misty Prepper, wasn't it Misty Prepper? When she ended up cutting herself when she was working with some sausage, and when she cut herself, she ended up putting all the natural remedies on it, but then it sealed. Like she put comfrey on it so that the surface sealed. And what ended up happening was it trapped bacteria in her hand. So I'm not going to use anything with comfrey in it because I don't want the surface to seal. I want it to stay open and make sure we got everything worked out. She ended up having to have it lanced and down to the bone, and it looked like this huge sausage. After a couple weeks, she was so sick. So that's why I'm so scared to have it close at this point. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. If the goat hurt my wife, I would shoot it, seriously. Well, the goat did hurt your wife, actually, Honeydew Carpenter. He knocked Melanie in the butt the other day, which is, he's kind of a different guy, the goat is. He loves the renter's family because they raised him as a baby, so they've never hurt any of them, but he's not real fond of other goats, and he's kind of so-so with other people. Not necessarily attacking everybody, but if he's a goat. If you turn your back, he'll get you. And this time, I wasn't in the danger zone until I pushed the other goat up to be bred. Palmetto Paratrooper says, I always use 90% alcohol in every wound. We've thought about that. I'm just concerned about, can I put alcohol under the skin? I mean, it's a puncture, not deep, but laterally under the skin. It's separated the skin from what's underneath.
Ask him, applied or...
Yeah. And Wholesome, John wants to know if it's applied or ingested when you use that 90% alcohol. Wholesome said tetanus shot doesn't work after the fact anyway. Myth. That's what I've heard, is that like it works after 10 days, but you're dead after 7 if you didn't already have your tetanus shot, something like that. Oh, that's a good idea. Crazy MSK said, do you have a medication syringe you can flush it out with warm water? That is a great idea. Matthew Roddy said, send a message to Patriot Nurse. She'll have a proper remedy. Guinea Facinella said, when you take it out of the water, dry it, see if it still bleeds. It is. It's still bleeding a little bit, but only if I push on it. Cholecalciferol D3 vitamin immune system. Okay. Jason McWayne said, use yarrow. Mary Brown said, keep the wound open and continue to flush. YCM Dill said, yeah, they won't sweat puncture wounds. They just give me antibiotic cream and bandages. So it sounds like it would be a $200 doctor's visit for them just to send me home with a Band-Aid.
And antibiotics.
Palmetto Paratrooper says yes. So it must be both. Okay, so Stacy said, don't, 90% alcohol kill cells, don't use. Okay. Palmetto Paratrooper said, use a squirt bottle. The Have More Farm said, what does your AMA Med Guide to Family Symptoms say? You know, my mom has that book. I should go look it up. Oh, Rock didn't, this, it doesn't look as bad now because I've had it in the water. So there's the puncture, but the actual separation runs up to my knuckle on this middle finger, and then behind it, I've got air bubble. So it doesn't look real bad, and it's not painful. But if I were to touch it, it would open up and it would show down the length of my middle finger. So yeah, it doesn't look bad at all. But and it doesn't hurt. Okay, King Closure said, if you have flushed and clean, you're sure of that, then all you have to do is check with your doctor. He may give you some antibiotic. And we checked with our doctor, but he told me to go into the emergency room, but with something that looks like this, it doesn't look bad. If I go in there, they're going to have me sitting there for 7 hours with all the sick people.
On the urgent care.
Keeping Dutch said, I've heard goat jerky is great, LOL.
Not when it's got male, what do you call it, bucking?
He is so rancid right now. Like, he is rank, and he thinks everything in the world wants to breed with him. I can't get within about 3 feet or he starts licking his tongue at me. Not Normal Tree said, do you have a syringe to flush it? I don't know. I know my mom will, because I'm going in to get some homeopathics from her. Our family homestead said, puncture of that size, leave open, get good, a cleaned wrap loosely to breathe then. Okay. Mormon family homestead said, must keep wound oxygenated. So if there's air underneath the skin, is that a good thing? Because there's a lot of air under the skin. Tetanus can result from lack of oxygen to the wound. Wrapping too tightly and using too much ointment is a big no-no. Wholesome roots, flush and soak. Denya Warmaner said, what about soaking up some salts? That's what I'm soaking it in right now. I don't know if you can see that.
Someone said...
Okay, Mother of Horses said, irrigation, irrigation, irrigation. I've dealt with this type of wound. So you would actually force water into the wound instead of just soaking it, correct? If it does bleed strongly, you have only 24 hours. Yeah, and it doesn't bleed very much. A few drops of colloidal silver applied in any cream. Your hand is swollen. Yes, my hand is quite swollen. Willow Creek Homestead said, I'm not sure I would rush to the doc. Yeah, I'm not sure either. Which, you know, the hard thing is sometimes you do get bucks that just are ornery. We had one buck that he was only ornery during rutting season. If he had girls in heat, this was an accident. This goat, he turned his head at the wrong time and was trying to hit the goat, not me, and I just was in the way. We've had bucks before where he will target you and come after you, bash you into a wall, and knock you on your butt and come after your face. When I was a kid, we had one like that. His name was Abram. And so Dragon didn't do that, and I do want to hold on to his genetics. So if he...
Just have to clone him.
we have to clone him.
And make him less sterile.
If the second doe comes into heat in 2 weeks, and she comes into heat, then I think we will sell him as a meat goat. Because there's no way... I was really thorough to watch when they bred to know that they actually did the deed. And there was lots of sign afterwards that it had been successful. So if this other goat, if Lemon Drop comes into heat now, then it means that he two strikes, you're out. And I'm gonna go. I will go take him down to the other 2 bucks that we know are proven, and we will sell him as a meat goat.
your alpines real
No. Celtic Bear said, I don't think it's air bubble. It's probably not fluid. See, it is air bubble, though. If I squeeze the area around it, I have little air bubbles that pop out of the wound. And it feels crunchy around the puncture. It feels crunchy, and then air bubbles come out. The Rage said, hey, from Poland. Hello. And I think that's true. Not Normal Tree said, if you wait 24 hours, you'll know if you need to go. And that's kind of what I assume is that I'll know. Name you just said, wow, as long as YouTube comments say so must be true. No need for doctors anymore, people. Woohoo. But haven't you ever been into an urgent care where they just gave you an aspirin and sent you home? We've had that kind of thing where $300 later, we went in and like the girls had a bite that I thought it was maybe a bite. I was concerned about it. We went in, they said, give her a little Benadryl. And we took her home. We've had that happen a lot of times where it was like, well, I think what I did at home probably worked better.
We've had many times.
Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Glenn Clevedence said the joy of rutting bucks. Yeah, some of them just become a different kind of animal. And he really does not like that doe. So I'm wondering if maybe that was the unsuccessful breeding. If Lemon Drop comes into heat in 2 weeks, we'll know. Sterile water only. The Have More Farm said sterile water only. So, yeah, everybody says keep it breathing. Goat soup. Oh, okay. Somebody said when our dog was attacked, the skin was separated from the muscle. They wrapped her with vet wrap so the air did not inflate the area. So maybe I just need to keep pushing the air out. I don't know. But we already called urgent care. That's the thing is we called urgent care. We told them exactly what happened. And she said, you know, it's not urgent. If you want to come in, come in. But mostly just if it's clean, you're good enough. And so we have already called. We called 2 doctors so far. And the one that we actually described the wound to, she's the one that said, you're probably fine. Yeah, and arnica for bruising. Willow Creek Homestead said arnica for bruising would be good. Yeah, Mother of Horses said if it gets hot, swells worse, or gets red, seek medical treatment. Ooh, that doesn't sound like fun. Palmetto Paratrooper. I once put my hand too close to the business end of 2 pit bulls fighting, and one pierced the skin between my index and thumb. The moment I shot at the dog took off across the yard. Yeah. Hey, Sandra.
We can shoot the goat.
We're not going to shoot the goat. It's not like it's out of character for a buck to do something like this at this time of year.
For a doe to come into heat 2 weeks later.
Well, that's very true.
Okay.
So, Mother of Horses said if you develop a fever, go to hospital ASAP. Crunchy. Oh, that's not good. Bone or cartilage damage. Well, that could be true. I might have damaged the bone. It doesn't feel like it though.
No, I think it's swelling.
Yeah, exactly. I was feeding a goat in the south and her mate headbutted me from behind. They can be bucks. Usually we don't keep a buck. Usually we rent a buck, but we really wanted these genetics and so we kept him around longer than what we usually would. All right. The Not Normal Tree said you may grow wattles. Hey, Rebecca. Okay, so I'm going to go into town. It's not hurting as bad as it was before. So we're going to run into town and get this taken care of. So this is tomorrow's video, and I'm really sorry about that. I did have another one ready. So, love you guys. See, it works. Same hand. No pain, just paranoia. Love you guys. See you. Bye.